I really need this medication.
I'm sorry, sir. I can't give you this without a valid prescription.
The old man's hands trembled as he placed a small, wrinkled prescription slip on the counter. His coat was worn thin, patched in places, and his shoes had seen far better days. He coughed into a faded handkerchief, the sound heavy and painful. Behind the counter, the young pharmacist glanced at the paper, then at him. Her voice was flat. "Sir, that will be $180. The old man froze. His cloudy eyes blinked hard, as if the number itself struck him like a blow. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a few crumpled bills and coins. It wasn't even close. Around him, customers shifted impatiently. Some sighed, some whispered. No one offered to help. "Sir," the pharmacist said again, louder this time, "if you don't have the money, you'll need to leave." The man's cheeks burned. He felt small, as if the whole world was watching him beg for something he couldn't afford. His chest ached, not just from sickness, but from shame. He lowered his head, about to walk away, empty-handed. But then, a gentle voice broke the silence. "Wait, I'll pay for it." Everyone turned. A young nurse stepped forward, her eyes filled with kindness. What she didn't know was this act of compassion would change her entire life. The old man's relief was short-lived. The nurse pulled a few bills from her purse and slid them across the counter, but the pharmacist's lips curled into a smirk. "You really want to waste your money on him?" she asked, her voice sharp enough for others to hear. A man in line chuckled cruelly. "He's probably some drunk who wasted his life and now expects pity." Another woman shook her head, muttering, "People like that, they just drain society." Better to let nature take its course. Each word landed heavier than the last, pressing on the old man's chest. He tried to speak, to defend himself, but his voice cracked, lost in the shuffle of whispers and judgment. His hands trembled as he reached for the small paper bag the nurse had insisted he take. The nurse's face flushed with anger. "He's a human being," she snapped, her voice trembling but firm. "He deserves dignity, just like anyone else." Her words silenced some, but not all. The pharmacist shrugged, clearly annoyed. "Fine, but don't come crying when people like him take advantage of your kindness." The old man lowered his eyes, his shoulders sagging. He felt like a shadow in the room, small and powerless against their stares. No one knew his story. No one cared to ask. And yet, in that moment of humiliation, he saw her, this young nurse, standing taller than anyone else in the room. She was the only one who saw him as more than a burden. What she didn't know was, the powerless old man she defended carried a secret that would one day turn every cruel word back on those who spoke it. Later that evening, as the nurse carefully helped the old man sit on a bench outside the pharmacy, she noticed something odd. When he reached into his pocket for the handkerchief, a small leather wallet slipped out and landed on the ground with a soft thud. Its edges were worn, but the gold clasp still gleamed faintly under the streetlight. The nurse bent to pick it up. As she handed it back, the wallet fell open just enough for her eyes to catch a glimpse. An old photograph tucked inside. It showed a much younger man, strong and proud, standing beside a beautiful woman and a grand house in the background. The photo was not ordinary. It radiated wealth, history, and something carefully hidden. The old man quickly snapped the wallet shut, his hands shaking, not from weakness, but from urgency. His cloudy eyes darted away as if afraid she'd seen too much. The nurse didn't press, but a quiet thought lingered in her mind. Who who exactly was this man? The photograph had stirred something the nurse couldn't understand, but for the old man, it was a doorway he'd long kept closed. Once, his life was nothing like this. He had been strong, respected, and wealthy, a man who built his fortune with his own hands. In those years, his mansion echoed with laughter. His wife, gentle and radiant, filled their home with warmth. Together, they dreamed of children, of legacy, of giving back to the world. But life had other plans. His wife grew ill, and though he spent every coin, every sleepless night by her side, nothing could stop the sickness that stole her away. The grand house became silent. The fortune he once prized felt like a prison, every room a reminder of what he had lost. Loneliness drove him away from the riches others envied. He stepped down from his businesses, entrusted them to people he thought loyal. In return, they betrayed him, stripping away his empire piece by piece. Soon, he was left not with power, but with empty hands and a broken heart. Yet he never complained. He wandered quietly through the years, choosing anonymity over the bitter gaze of society. He wanted to see the truth about people, how they treated a man when he had nothing to offer. Now, as he sat coughing on the cold bench, clutching the photograph of a life gone by, he realized the nurse's kindness wasn't just rare, it was real. Unlike the false smiles of business partners or the greedy relatives who once circled him, this young woman had nothing to gain. She helped because her heart told her to. And in that moment, the old man's story looped back to the present. For the first time in years, he felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps his search for someone worthy of his legacy was finally over. The very next day, the nurse accompanied the old man to the hospital for his checkup. His coughing had worsened, and though he tried to appear strong, his frail body betrayed him. At the reception desk, the same dismissive tone returned. "Sir, your insurance expired years ago," the clerk said coldly. "If you can't pay, we can't treat you." The nurse clenched her fists. "He's sick. Can't you see that? Is money all you people care about?" Her words carried across the waiting area. Some people stared in pity, others shook their heads. To most, the old man was still nothing more than a burden. Then the clerk glanced at his paperwork again. She frowned. "Strange. This file says your name is E. Harrington." The nurse turned sharply, her eyes narrowing. Harrington. She'd heard that name before. Everyone had. It was stamped on skyscrapers, hospitals, even the very wing of the building they were standing in. Whispers erupted around them. "Harrington. No, it can't be. Is that who I think it is?" The old man's hands tightened around his cane. His lips pressed together, as if holding back something heavy. He didn't deny it, but he didn't confirm it either. He only lowered his gaze, letting the silence speak louder than words. The nurse's heart pounded. For the first time, she looked at him not as a patient, but as a mystery. A man who seemed poor, powerless, yet whose name carried the weight of an empire. And in that moment, the story shifted. He was no longer just a sick old man. He was someone hiding a truth that could shake everyone in the room. The whispers in the hospital grew louder, spreading like wildfire until even the head nurse stepped out to see what was happening. The old man, weary but dignified, lifted his gaze at last. "I never cared about titles or riches," he said softly. "What I wanted to know was this. Does kindness still exist in a world so quick to judge?" All eyes turned toward the young nurse who had stood by him from the very beginning. Her face burned with surprise, but also with pride. She hadn't helped him because of who he was. She had helped because it was right. The old man slowly reached into his pocket once more and pulled out the photograph she had glimpsed before. This time, he placed it gently into her hands. This was my family. I lost them long ago. But yesterday, you reminded me of the love I thought the world had forgotten. And I will not forget you. Tears welled in her eyes. Around them, the crowd shifted. No more whispers of mockery, only murmurs of respect. Even those who had insulted him earlier now looked down in shame. For the first time in years, the old man was not invisible. He was seen, honored, vindicated. And so, the story closed not with wealth or power, but with a truth far greater. Respect should never be measured by appearance, money, or status. For the old man, stripped of riches, the world had revealed its cruelty. But it had also revealed a light. A single act of compassion had proven stronger than 1,000 insults. The nurse did not know she was helping a millionaire. She only knew he was a man in need. And that was enough.